Hello everyone, and welcome to a special kind of GM's Brew, GM's Review hybrid thing we're going to be trying out today. Yesterday, a little bit. Oh, hey Tux, how you doing, my man? As requested, I fixed the chat box, so your text should show up pretty much the whole time through, as long as no one pushes it off the screen. Yesterday, while I was doing GM's Brew, talking about the Brass Knuckle crew, apparently a Unearthed Arcana dropped, and oh wow, like looking through this thing, it's a little bit. I gotta wonder what wizard has this coming down the pipeline for us, because this involves a lot of aberration and mind stuff. A lot of, we'll dive into that in a couple minutes as we're going over it. Just a real quick couple updates. We are at 33 followers. Our goal is 35 followers for the week. If we hit 35 followers by the time we go on break this Sunday during Second Sight Agency, we'll be giving away this set of dice. So, if you haven't followed us yet, or if you have a friend that hasn't followed us yet, or anyone that you can influence or say, hey, check these guys out, follow them and see what they're doing, really would appreciate it. We're trying to push to that 50 follower benchmark in like the next couple months. So yeah, anything anyone can do, we appreciate. It's costing nothing, so don't worry about it, and if you don't want to follow us, that's fine. This is a very impromptu thing. I had no plans of doing this prior to talking to a couple of the people involved in the bonus roll yesterday after GM's Brew ended. So those of you who don't follow us on Twitter at bonus roll, this is probably a bit of a surprise for y'all. So all the more reason to check that out. I have not yet gotten the revisions or the final version of the Brass Knuckle to Zizva to be, the final version of the Brass Knuckle crew to Zizva to be uploaded, but keep an eye on that, and keep an eye on our YouTube channel. Just search the bonus roll for the latest episode of GM's Brew to hopefully be going up sometime tonight or tomorrow. So, I think that's pretty much all I had to cover with the intro. So, let's just jump right into this. So, Wizards released a new spell and two new, I refer to them as archetypes. Subclasses is another option. These are options for the Sorcerer and the Warlock, two of my favorite class types, both arcane users. Oh, I forgot to, hold on. I always forget to turn off those little, just ignore this, because, yeah, I always forget to turn off the little spelling and grammar errors for this. It's important to check for spelling and grammar, but not on the middle of the stream. I need to add that to my checklist. So anyway, as I was saying, and as is warned here, these are proto playtest. They're going to probably be up on D&D Beyond as an option soonish, if they aren't already. So if you use that service, keep an eye out for it. If you want the documentation that this came from, you can find it on Wizards of the Coast's website. Just search Dungeons & Dragons Wizards of the Coast, and it's listed under their Unearthed Arcana. So let's jump right into that. Let me get my notes all kind of squared away here. And we're going to be starting with the Aberrant Mind Sorcerer. Now, all sorcerers take their origin at first level. Let me get a little bit larger view on this, just to make sure. There we go. Now I can see what y'all are seeing. Yeah, we can put up a link to the reference in the wiki. Now that I can see what y'all are seeing a little bit better. So, sorcerers and warlocks both get their patron or their origin at first level. A lot of people think that the warlock actually gets their subclass at third level because the pact magic, either the tome, the chain, or the weapon is such a defining pact for the character, but I mean technically it's at first level because that's where you select your patron, which selects the abilities you receive as you go farther along. So, we're going to start with the Sorcerer's Origin, Aberrant Mind. Now, the theme of this one is it's a psychic or a eldritch entity from beyond the bounds of the known realms, or some sort of abomination has inflicted a transformation upon you, and that's where your sorceress magic comes from. Unlike, say, the dragon sorcerer, where mommy or daddy or great-grandpa was a dragon, this one is a number of other possible influences. So it comes with this little sidebar box right here called Unique Disturbance, which is basically a flavor enhancer. When you use specific spells that you get through this, it creates a kind of flavor, little ribbon or addition to the character that you can either roleplay up or ignore. There's no mechanical effects tied to it, so it's not required. But it can be kind of fun to, like, you're using your psychic powers and everyone around you starts getting chills, or you have, like, kind of a mucusy sheen or something like that. Moving right on to the very first ability, Invasive Thoughts. I need to get a little bit better on that scrolling. There's a couple things, like, just looking this over real quick, it's basically very similar to the Warlock of the Great Ones first ability, where they can communicate telepathically with someone, though this one has a couple different restrictions and stuff like that. Looking through this, just giving a quick once over, I've noticed a couple things that, like, are interesting to me that I could see being really used in a couple different ways. One is the target does not have to be willing. So if you can see someone within 30 feet, whether they like it or not, you can start, like, shouting into their mind if you want. The range is only a factor when you're initiating the link. So you can create a link with someone you can see within 30 feet, and for the next 10 minutes, even if they move more than 30 feet away from you, as written, you can still communicate with them, and they only have to understand the language to respond. Now, it's up to your game master how much flexibility you have with this. You can use this as a quick way to bypass not sharing a language with a NPC, but you can also use this because it targets a creature. You can use this to issue commands to an animal or something like that. Let's see, what's going on? I had a prior... Oh, yeah, the mechanical sweat. Yeah. Oh, yeah, I remember the madness sweats. But, yeah, so... depending on how lenient your GM is and how well you roll with animal handling or persuasion, depending on who's running this, you could use Invasive Thoughts to potentially have a lot of mechanical fun, getting animals to do your bidding, or just pestering someone for 10 minutes at a time. And since there's no limit on the number of uses, you can just continuously reuse this again and again and again, as long as your target's within 30 feet of you. So that's an important one. Now we're going to move on to the spells. These spells are added directly to your spell table when you level up. They're not. It's an ability. It's not a cantrip or a spell, which means it can't be targeted by Dispel Magic because, well, it may be able to be targeted by Dispel Magic, but Counterspell would have no effect on it because it's not technically a spell; it's a ability. So, yeah. Let's see here. So, looking at the list of spells, first thing is, like a lot of the sorcerer stuff, you get the spells just added to your spell inventory. You don't have to pick or choose among them. And I mean, that's great because a big complaint about the sorcerer is that you don't get a lot of spells while you're leveling up. So this kind of balances against that. You can't replace these spells when you gain a level in class, but I mean, they're free spells, so Yeah, it makes sense. Looking at the spells themselves, I have a couple thoughts. The big thing that I've noticed with the first level spells, the Arms of... come on. Yeah, the cantrip's going to be at the end. The Arms of Hadar and Dissonant Whispers are both reaction denying spells. Dissonant Whispers forces them to use the reaction to move, so you can also have some board control. Arms of Hadar is basically just a big area of effect damage dealer that can also mess up their reaction. So you can use that to escape, or have your opponents run past or have your allies run past the target without having to worry about attacks of opportunity if they fail on their saving throw. So it's honestly two really good and very in-theme spells to go with the idea of this otherworldly being that is, or intelligence that's slowly warping your body. Let's see, the third level spells calm emotions and detect thoughts, whereas the first level are more reaction-based. These are more support-based in a sort of way. Calm emotions, you can suppress charmed or fear in your friends, or you can make an opponent just disinterested in you, which is super useful, like, you know, if you don't want to get in a fight and someone's like really wanting to fight you. Detect thoughts, I mean, basically you're Professor Xavier. You can read mind, you can go deep into someone's mind and read that mind. They'll know the spell will end if they beat your saving throw if you try and dive deep, but you can just do a surface level scan of pretty much anyone around you with no real issue for like up to a full minute with that spell, which is great for info gathering or like trying to pull a little bit of information from people. So the fifth level spells are Hunger of Hadar and Sending. Sending is like, everyone knows Sending or has like some funny story about someone who was in their party and they got cut off mid-sending, so there was a misunderstanding or a message didn't arrive where you expected it. There's lots of examples of Sending, so I'm not going to talk about too much of that one. Hunger of Hadar is just horrifically awesome. It creates this void, and let me just read directly like 2 lines from it. This void is filled with a cacophony of soft whispers and slurping noises that can be heard up to 30 feet away. And that's just a description of it. Here's part of the effect. Any creature that ends its turn in the area must succeed on a dexterity saving throw or take 2d6 acid damage as milky, otherworldly tentacles rub against it. I mean, this is... there are certain words that I tweeted out that I would avoid I'm going to try and avoid using, but this is like... that is not something you want to get caught in. And honestly, it seems a little mean to catch your enemies in it. So let's just move on. The less we say about that, the better. Compulsion is an interesting one. It's basically, you can use it to tell any number of creatures you can see within 30 feet of you to go stand in a corner or move away from me. Which, in its base form, useful, especially if you're getting surrounded as a squishy sorcerer. But also, you know... yeah, well, you're stuck with Faraday for a little bit while longer, Tux. Compulsion, the movement, you can't make people walk into something dangerous, or like you can't have them walk through a fire or into a pit trap or anything like that, but their movement does trigger attacks of opportunity, so you can tell them, everyone go march past my allies, and they will do it if they fail their save. Everett's Black Tentacles is... see Hunger of Hadar. This creates just an area that is generally unpleasant for anyone who is within it. It's a 20-foot square that is difficult terrain. Anyone in that is restrained and take damage at the start of their turns. So yeah, that is mean. Okay, so I keep on getting distracted by chat. Let's see here. So the last one, 9th level spells, modify memory. This is literally just a 10-minute memory edit. You can go through and you can make someone forget about the horrible 10 minutes they spent in your average black tentacles or hunger of Hadar if they manage to survive that. Or you can add memory of them being in it. It's any edit that you want to do, deletion included, or addition. You have a 24-hour limit, but using higher level spell slots lets you go farther and farther back, all the way up to 9th level, where you can basically rewrite 10 minutes of anyone's memory throughout their entire history. Rary's telepathic bond is really nice. It's lets you and up to 8 creatures communicate telepathically. So this is a lot of utility in dungeons or with groups. My biggest issue is it's more effective it only lasts for an hour, and it costs a 9th level spell slot. So it's better to... Wait, not 9th, sorry. 5th level spell slot. Don't know why I got 9th there. Oh, because I was talking about modified memory. It costs a 5th level spell slot, lasts for an hour, and basically just facilitates communication. It's really much better to use the spell as a ritual, but unfortunately sorcerers can't cast ritual spells. Or they can't cast spells as rituals, I don't believe. So, yeah. I would not use that much. So... well, we'll come back to how useful some of these things are later. Going on to Warped Being. This is essentially like the same effect that the dragon sorcerers get, where they have a dragon hide, or in this case, you have tough scales, or a viscous slime, or a psionic barrier. Basically, it's just a permanent mage armor spell, as long as you aren't wearing armor. And I mean, with 2 different sorcerer subtypes now having this ability, it's starting to feel a little bit like it's required, because it's acknowledging an issue that the sorcerer is kind of squishy, just like the wizard, without the benefit of the wizard's flexibility. So you either take one of the subtypes that gives you the 13 plus dex mod, or you waste a spell and your spell slots on armor, which, I mean, 8 hours, 16 hours if you have one of the meta magics that lets you double the duration of it, is not horrible, but it's still... you're still using a spell slot for something that other subtypes get for free. So, I mean, that's just my opinion, is that if this shows up in like one more subtype later, I would say like you just need to add a sorcerer to give it a base AC 13 from its magic as a part of the core class. That's just my opinion. Your opinion can be different. I encourage it. Let's see here. There is the noted rule about AC calculations don't stack. If you have this and you have your like a level of monk and a level of barbarian, you only get the one. You can't have both plus constitution plus wisdom plus dexterity plus a full base 13 for your armor. That, yeah. Don't get me wrong, that would be awesome, but... So let's see here now. Next one is Psionic Sorcery. This is the one I was talking about that would make the telepathic bond and the other spells just wow. This is an alternate use for your sorcery points beyond just creating spell slots or adding a meta magic effect, which I really love, and I want to see more and more sorcerer subtypes have this option. Basically, a first level spell slot would cost 2 points to make, but with this you could cast your first level spell, blah 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 blah, what was it? I want to say compulsion, that's not it. It's hunger? No, Arms of Hadar. You could cast Arms of Hadar once a turn for a single like sorcery point. So that's, and I mean that scales like you can cast a 5th level for 5 points, but it would normally cost 7 points to convert those points to a 5th level spell. So yeah, if you have the option, always use Psionic Sorcery instead of a spell slot. The fact that it also lets you cast without using components is really nice, because it doesn't say material components. It says no components. That means no verbal, no somatic, no material. So yeah, silenced, bound up, and with your gagged or tied up, whatever, broken hands, you can still, at the very least, use Hunger of Hadar to create a nightmarish scenario for the people who have taken you captive. This is really good. Anyone at 6th level, like, who is... Wow. Yeah. They're insane. I love it. Okay, so let's see here. Psychic defenses. Resistance to psychic damage and have advantage on saving throws against being frightened or charmed. See, this is an interesting one, because there's some races that give you advantage on being charmed, elves. There's some races that give you advantage on being frightened. Halflings, I believe, are one of them. So this on either the elf or the halfling kind of fills that gap, but any other race would get the full effect. That resistance to psychic damage is... I'd have to look over some things. I don't remember there being a ton of psychic damage that comes from creatures that aren't already aberrations. But, yeah. Any resistance is good. Even if it's not used a lot, it can still be clutch in a moment. And if you're playing a game where this is like a relevant character class, like your DM should be like taking into account, oh hey, they are an Aberrant themed spellcaster, I need to make sure to throw some aberrations in here every now and then. It'll be useful. Revelation in Flesh. This is just body horror. I love it. I love it. It's another, like I was saying, I love any ability that lets you spend sorcery points on things other than just meta magics or creating new spell slots. It really is like the core feat of the flexibility of a sorcerer. So basically, for 1 minute, you can gain one of these abilities. Like, you can gain a swimming speed equal to your walking speed and the ability to breathe water. You gain a flying speed equal to your walking speed and can hover. You can fly. Your body, along with any equipment, becomes slimy and palatable, or your eyes turn black or become withering sensory tentacle. I mean, these are not exclusive. They're not, you can only have one going at once. So for 4 sorcery points, for 1 minute, you can be an amphibious flying slime monster with tentacle eyes. That's really... I mean, I can see this being more situationally useful. That 1 minute duration makes it a little more clutch combat use than anything like that, but it can also be used for certain specific situations that you need it, like, say, oh hey, I gotta get through this tunnel real quick, and that tunnel is full of water, or oh hey, my friend is falling, I gotta get down there and get him, or I have been trapped in this dungeon and I would like to squirm out of this dungeon, or I want to freak people out with my eyes on tentacle stalks coming out of my face. The whole location of any hidden or invisible creature is also a bonus, though. So let's see. 18th, Warp Reality. So this is like the final ability of the Aberrant Sorcerer. This is the one that's like at the top tier. Basically after this, all you have to look forward to is that wonderful Sorcerer capstone ability of getting back a couple sorcery points every now and then. Yeah. Anyway, Warp Reality. At 18th level, you become the focal point of a reality warping anomaly. As an action, you can magically radiate a transparent 20-foot radius aura for 1 minute. This might take the form of a sphere of rippling psychic energy, a fluctuating amoebic gel, an extrusion of inferior parasites, or some other manifestation. So it's basically up to you what it looks like. The net effect is that other creatures treat it as difficult terrain, and if they start their turn within it, they take 2d10 damage. So it's hard to get out of. It hurts them every turn that they are in it. Oh, and by the way, when you activate it, you can choose to not hurt your friends with it. On top of that insanity, you can end the aura early. It doesn't say how early you have to end it. So you can hold on to this for 9 rounds, and on the 10th round, when it would disappear, you can pop it, and if you do so, any number of creatures you choose within the aura are teleported to a location you can see within 1 mile of you. Each creature must appear within 20 feet of you in an unoccupied space. And you can do this to your friends and anyone that's fighting with you. And, like, yeah, that's, like, yeah. Oh, hey, Equilibrium. Yeah, this is a special show. There was a, whatchamacallit, Unearthed Arcana that dropped during GM's Brew, and I just loved it to the point that I was easily talked into doing this little mini episode. I don't expect it to be super long, but still, I wanted to get out here and talk about some of this stuff. But anyway, I was just finishing up the description of Warped Reality. In essence, you hurt your enemies within a 20-foot radius of you with an amoebic gel sac that you projected from your body. And then you can end it early to teleport your friends, yourself, and anyone else in your gel sac who fails a charisma saving throw up to 1 mile away once per day. So, yeah, that's... There's a lot of really powerful stuff in the Aberrant Sorcerer. I really like it. I really feel that it's super flavorful. It carries the flavor of the idea that they were going through really, really well. I'm not sure how sane some of this stuff is. I imagine that a lot of this may get rejiggered or reworked a little bit just to make it less... Yeah. But all in all, I really like the Aberrant Sorcerer, and this fits really well into a couple ideas I've been having recently about some very mental-focused or enchantment-focused spellcasters. So, all in all, I would say if you get a chance to try it out, try it out. Even if you don't like Sorcerer and you feel like... Oh, no, I wanted to stay. I wanted to get all the way through, and I want to see the book that this is coming out in, because this is radically different than, like, the last Unearthed Arcana that came out with, like, the Astral Soul and the Wild Magic Barbarian. I'm curious what we have coming down the line, and I really wish I could peer into the future. But like I was saying, if you can, play this, even if it's just a one-shot, because there's going to be a lot of fun to be had with this. I especially, like I was talking about, love any effect, any ability that lets you spend sorcery points in unusual ways. So I hope that's something we keep seeing with future sorcerer subclasses. So let's move on to the next one. It is a Warlock Patron called Lurker in the Deep. And I mean, there's already been a bunch of people making jokes about, oh hey, this is inspired by Matthew Mercer's Critical Role campaign, Ford's Patron, Ukatoa, and stuff like that. I don't know if that's true or not, but man, this thing is just... There are some abilities here that are brutal, so let's go ahead and get launched into this. You made a pact with an entity that lurks somewhere deep in the ocean or even on the elemental plane of water, such as a mighty kraken, an ancient primordial, or a monstrous being from creation's earliest days. To me, a monstrous being from creation's earliest days says Aboleth. You serve as this creature's eyes and ears, watching the world beyond its domain and reporting your findings. So right here, I mean, you can play it like this, as like, it just wants to know what the hell is going on, without any actual malicious intent. If you want to have like a nice, easy, I have a warlock with some interesting, weird powers. And we have the Lurker's Clutches sidebar here, which basically says, it's up to you what form the appendages that your patron projects into the world takes. So, a Kraken's would be like squid-like tentacles. Yeah, I could see being unstable being brought to D&D. I mean, Ravnica did really well, so I could see them tapping a bunch more D&D stuff or a bunch more Magic the Gathering stuff for D&D. But basically, the little sidebar, the Lurker's Clutches, say it's up to you what form the limbs and stuff take. Yeah, Great Old One fits pretty well for the Nephilim. I don't want to talk too much about patrons and Ravnica because I have things planned coming up, so I'm going to focus instead on this. So taking a look at the expanded spell list, unlike the Sorcerer who like just gets all the spells added to his spell book or spell inventory, you as a Warlock you have to pick. So it's a little bit more consideration went into my thinking on these. Create or Destroy Water is a good survival spell. It doesn't really benefit much from being cast at higher levels though, but it can be fun. And no one necessarily says you have to vomit the fresh water out of your mouth, but nothing says that you can't either. Thunderwave is more utilitarian and will benefit from the fact that Warlocks have a max level spell slot. You basically push people away from you and hurt them, and objects too, and basically everyone within 300 feet knows you are now there. So it is not what I would call a subtle spell, but it is a spell that will buy you a little breathing room, if you don't mind having some visitors pretty soon as people come to go like, what the hell was that? The second level spells Gust of Wind and Silence. Gust of Wind is kind of a more directed version of Thunderwave, where you can target it by pointing it at people or in a specific direction. But it, like the Creator Destroy Water, it doesn't benefit too much from being cast at higher levels. Neither does Silence really, but Silence freaking wrecks spellcasters. Most of evocations require a verbal component, at the very least, addition to a somatic. Almost every illusion, almost every enchantment requires them. Silence just shuts down like at least half of the spells that most wizards know. Same thing with sorcerers and warlocks and any other caster. About the only exception would be if it was a Aberrant Mind Sorcerer who doesn't need to use any components to cast a spell. Lightning Bolt. Thunder and lightning. This is basically, the damage dealing spell if you're not doing a fireball. This is Thunderstruck, people. And it benefits from being cast at higher levels. But you also have Sleet Storm. And Sleet Storm is freezing goddamn rain that just wrecks casters' concentration. Basically, anyone in the area has to make a dexterity save to keep from slipping and sliding all over the place like it's a freaking Stooges movie. And every caster that starts their turn while they're in that area, while they're concentrating on a spell, has, I believe it's a disadvantage, I would have to look it back up, at their saving throw. No, they have to make a concentration saving throw even if they haven't taken damage. So, yeah, just being in the area of that spell, if, like, say, you have a cleric that is sustaining Bless, that cleric is making a concentration saving throw until he moves out of that area. Okay, let's see. Control water. This is basically, you become a water bender. You can flood an area, you can part water, you can close water, you can redirect water, you can make a whirlpool that just ruins the day of anyone on a ship. And please see what I said previously about Everard's Black Tentacles being a 20-foot square area of just restraint and tentacle bludgeoning. I honestly love them both. I think if I was sitting down to pick, I would go with Everard's Black Tentacles, just because Control Water specifically requires there to be water, while Everard's Black Tentacles just requires there to be a physical space for the tentacles to manifest, a floor. Let's see here, the 5th level, and 5th level is the highest spell level that you get naturally for Warlocks. So you get Commune with Nature, which, it's great recon. It tells you everything in your area. You get to ask that. You get 3 facts about the terrain, but it doesn't work in areas that have been constructed on. So if you're playing in Ravnica, that is useless. When it comes to Cone of Cold, though, that benefits from the... Oh, no, it doesn't really benefit from the enhanced spell level, because 5th level is the highest spell level that Warlocks get. So, I still go with Cone of Cold, because targets take up to 32 damage if they save. If they save, they take 32 they can take up to 32 damage. If they fail their save, they could take up to 64 damage. That is a lot of damage. That is like one-shotting the wizard in some cases, because 5th level spells, I believe, kicking at 9th, and that's not a ton of hit points for some classes. Also, anyone you kill with Cone of Cold is literally a frozen statue, which kind of, if they're in a block of ice, it's hard to lay your hands on them to revivify them. So you can easily shut down a lot of, the tank went down, the tank came back up, the tank went down, the tank went back up. So yeah. It is, yeah. So anyway, moving on to the actual abilities, we have Grasp of the Deep. So, let me look over this real quick. Oh, there's more on the next page, of course. We'll get to that. It's just increasing the stuff. So, basically, you summon a friendly tentacle that is within 60 feet of you and can hit things up to 10 feet away. So, if there's, say, someone that's 70 feet away from you, you can pop the tentacle out at the maximum distance, and it can just slap that person around. Lasts for a minute, and when you create it, it makes a melee spell attack as a bonus action. So this is kind of functioning a little bit like a weaker version of the spiritual weapon, where you basically use your bonus action to create something that can attack. And then, it reduces the target's speed by 10 feet too, so that can make it hard to get away from the tentacle. The damage increases to 2d8 when you hit level 10. That's not bad. A lot of spells will level up in some way. As a bonus action, on your turn, you can move the tentacle up to 30 feet and repeat the attack. So, say they have like a movement speed of 30 to 25, and you hit them with the attack. Their speed drops 10 to 15 to 15 to 20, which means that they would not be able to move out of the range of you able to move They would not be able to move out of the range that you could move the tentacle to on your next bonus action. Which basically means that if you are hounding someone, this thing is almost impossible to escape. And you can summon a tentacle a number of times equal to your charisma modifier, which, I mean, in an ideal situation, that's at least 4 to 5 times per day, which is not bad. I mean, it's not refresh on short rest, but it's still a good number of uses, and it lasts for a while. combat rounds. Most combats last somewhere between 4 to 5 rounds. So let's see here now. Scion of the Deep. I mean, yeah, you can basically play Aquaman. Anything with the swim speed, you can communicate with telepathically. There's no intelligence requirement or anything like that. So, yeah, you can play Aquaman if you want. Keep in mind, Aquaman can tell sharks to fuck you up, and they probably will do so, so that's not necessarily a bad thing. Moving on to Fathomless Soul, you are now Aquaman. You can breathe air and water, you have a swim speed equal to your walking speed, and you gain resistance to cold damage. Seriously, by like 6th level, you have a character that I have no reason to leave the water, and if I do, I'm going to try to find some way to bring my fishy friends with me. Fishy friends. Anyway, Guardian Grasp. This is an enhancement to the, what was the tentacle called? Grasp of the Deep. Basically, it uses your reaction to sacrifice your tentacle to half the damage you or a friend that's within 10 feet of the tentacle take. So, this is kind of a clutch thing because it burns your tentacle and you only get so many uses of those a day. But still, if the difference between going down and staying up is the difference that tentacle's damage absorption, that's a pretty easy exchange to make, I think. So let's see here now. Devouring Maw. Okay. I shouldn't have put that space between things. It threw off my scrolling a bit. Anyway, Devouring Maw. Starting at 10th level, magically draw forth manifestation of your insatiable hunger. 1 minute, translucent maw manifests as 10-foot radius. Each creature in the maw appears must make a strength saving throw against your spell save DC or be restrained. Any creature that starts its turn in the maw's area takes 3d6 cold or lightning damage, and it takes an action to repeat the saving throw. It doesn't get the saving throw automatically. You throw Hex on something, and it's basically dead. Especially if your Hex is like, you know... Wait, does Hex affect saving throws? I think so, yeah. Hex affects saving throws. Why do I not remember that? Anyway, so basically, restrain a creature so it can't move. It takes 3 to 18 damage on their turn. They have to burn their action to try and break free. And on your turn, you gain temporary HP equal to your Warlock level, as long as there's at least one creature still restrained. So, temporary hit points don't stack, but you're still getting at least 10 hit points every time it's your turn, so it won't be stacking, but it'll be refreshing, which is good. That's ridiculous. I love that. I really love that. Yep, and then there's a sidebar about temporary hit points not stacking. Unleash the Depths. You gain the ability to call upon your patron for aid. As an action, you choose a point within 30 feet, manifesting a measure of its tholastic grandeur. For those who don't know, tholastic means relating to the sea. You learned something today. Yeah, maddening Hex with that would be ridiculous, Isabel. Okay, so where were we? Unleash the Depths. Choose one of the following effects for your manifestation. This is a once per day thing, but you can either transport yourself and up to 5 willing creatures that you see within 30 feet of you to a point of your choice within 100 miles that you have visited within the past 24 hours. The tentacles then vanish, or barrage of spectral tentacles to issue force and strike up to 5 creatures you can see within 30 feet of must make a dexterity saving throw versus your spell save DC. On a failed save, takes 2d6 cold damage and is knocked prone. On a successful, that's a lot of damage. So basically, you can drag up to 5 of your friends, teammates, or willing fools through a tentacle-filled dimension of aquatic horrors before y'all are spit out someplace up to 100 miles away that you saw earlier in the day. Or you can have 5 people just get knocked silly, doing up to 30 points of damage on a save, 60 on a fail, and possibly knocking them prone, which just makes them such easy targets for melee. Wow. That is really good, even if it's just a once a day. Okay. So, that was the final one of that. So now we have this new spell called Mind Sliver. When I first saw Sliver, I thought, oh, hey, Mind Sliver. Back to Magic the Gathering. Always happy to see that stuff. Because you remember the old slivers, like every one of them has the ability of all other slivers, and that kind of feels very in line with Abominations. But then I actually read it, and I really like it. I know Zizva really likes it as well. It's kind of a demi-bane of sorts. You drive a disorienting spike of psychic energy into the mind of one creature you see within range. The target must make an intelligence saving throw. Unless the saving throw is successful, the target takes 1d6 psychic damage. And the first time it makes a saving throw before the end of your next turn, it must roll a d4 and subtract the number rolled from the save. And this spell's damage increases as you level up because it's a cantrip. But, wow. So, yeah, it's a kind of a mini Bane, since it's the roll d4 and subtract. It doesn't affect their attack rolls, and it's only once. But for anyone who either likes to use save or suck spells, or anyone who has teammates that like to use save or suck spells, which is a spell that, you know, just absolutely wrecks someone if they don't make their save on it, this is a great one for you. It is on the Warlock, the Sorcerer, and the Wizard spell list. So the two subclasses we've looked over at today can take it, as well as any Wizard. Sure, Amy, just give me a second to finish talking about this spell, and then I'll be happy to talk about a random item, okay? So let's see here now. The thing about this is, even if like no one else uses that mini Bane saving throw, you can use it by recasting this on them, and you can just keep that minus d4 rolling to force them to just keep failing at this. And basically, then you would kill someone with a protracted headache, I guess. So, all in all, I really like Aberrant Sorcerer. I want to see someone play with that soon. I like the flavor of the Lurker in the Deep, but it feels a little odd to have a water elemental focused Warlock Patron, but not any of the other elemental focused ones. That may just be my fondness of closed cycles and stuff. But yeah. The spell, there's one or two things I would change about it. I would like make it a straight up mini Bane. Make it so either their next attack roll or their next saving throw has the minus d4. But other than that, I would keep. I like that it has a little bit more oomph than the Vicious Mockery that is basically a bar exclusive, but it's really easy to get spells that are not in your class. It's just a feed or certain abilities. So honestly, I would say use any of these, give it a chance, see what you think and how you like them. So Amy Chibi, you had a question about a random item. I got a little bit of time before I got to run off, so yeah, we can do a little mini jam session on that stuff. What you got? Okay, an item that changes the character's gender, either giving HP, strength when it turns a woman into a man, and dexterity, agility when it turns a man. It's reminiscent of earlier versions of the, I can't even remember what it's called now. It's not really in the game. In previous editions, there was a belt, I believe it was the Belt of Masculinity, Femininity, or something along those lines. And if you wore it, it changed your gender. And there were some people that loved it. There were some people that hated it. There were some people that it was actually forced on their character against their will, and they did not like that. And so there's been a lot of drama about stuff like that. So it has to, I would say, an item like this would have to have a character willingly attuned to it before it can function. And I don't remember if it gave any bonuses. I think it may have. I would have to grab my old books and go through them because it's been years since I looked at it. The HP and strength for a masculine transformation fits with kind of the older versions of the game where males and females had different stat bonuses and stuff like that. Same thing with the dexterity and agility. That's kind of been put to the side with a more standardized set. I would say when a character attunes to it, instead of giving them an HP strength increase for turning into a masculine figure, or a dexterity increase when they turn into a feminine figure, I would say they can give themselves advantage on either strength or dexterity rolls while they're attuned to and wearing the belt. And the belt itself just functions as allowing them to alter the properties and shapes of their bodies. So if they wanted to become masculine, they could. It would function as a sort of combination enhanced attribute and a sort of alter self spell. So at that rate, I would put it at a rare. It's knocked down a little bit by the attunement, but it's still a pretty powerful, consistent bonus in both the bonuses and in the fact that you could alter your general appearance, even if it's just making yourself appear more masculine or feminine. Still, it's an interesting idea, and I know a lot of people that would like to play with that. If you have any ideas or you do a write-up on it and you want to bounce that off of me, feel free to message the message at bonus roll on Twitter, or you can email thebonusroll@gmail.com, and it'll find its way to me, and I'll take a look at it and can give you some advice or anything like that on it. Yeah, like Zizva is saying, being able to alter the way you look, people are very much fooled by, altered appearances and stuff like that. I mean, the whole Clark Kent Superman with glasses is a real thing because of expectations of appearance versus actuality of appearance. It's an interesting field to look at, especially in a psychology standpoint, but that's not really what I'm here for right now. So I got maybe 7 minutes or so from my expected time on this. I went a lot faster than I thought. I feel like I may have breezed through one or two things, but was just reviewing a couple classes, not doing any real homebrewing on my own. So, those of you who've turned in, what do you think? Do you want to see more of me doing reviews and stuff like this on top of the GM's Brew weekly show? Or should I just wait for when a new Unearthed Arcana comes out, or a new book comes out, or a new subset or package like that? Either leave a message on the stream chat, or email thebonusroll@gmail.com, or send a direct message to @bonusroll on Twitter. Let's see here. Does a character natural weapon proficiency vary according to the race? Because I can't really see a gnome being good with a normal sized sword. There is actually a rule set for that. There are several weapons. I believe Greatsword is one of them that has the heavy tag, which basically means any creature of size small or less can't handle it as effectively and have a a disadvantage at all attack rolls with it. And you can also do it in the other direction as well. Anyone of medium size has disadvantage using a weapon of a size larger. You can just do that as a flat homebrew rule if you want. We're basically saying any weapon or armor not specifically sized for your character gives you disadvantage on attack rolls or disadvantage on dexterity rolls while wearing or using it. Yeah, I mean, there are some ways around that. I want to say it's Gauntlets of Ogre Strength or Org Strength. I'd have to look into it. I believe one of them has an ability that lets you ignore the heavy tag, but I'm not 100% on that. I did not prep for doing a lot of discussion on weapon tags and ability tags, so that's not really something I'm ready to sit down and do an in-length discussion on just yet. But I will add weapon design to my list of stuff to do between project sets on the GM's brew. How's that sound? That way we can discuss tagging and how the weapon tags and armor tags and how they affect different properties of the weapons along the way. And that'll probably get slotted sometime after the Pathfinder series ends. So we have our weekly Ravnica D&D game coming up on Sunday. Hope y'all join us for that. These aren't my creations. These are from Unearthed Arcana. They were released by Wizards of the Coast and our playtest, and they will hopefully, maybe with some revision, get released in a future book. I take no credit for these. I just wanted to go over them, talk about them a little bit, and let people know that they're out there. I do have an idea for a Warlock homebrew that I will be including. I have an idea for a Warlock homebrew that I will be including as a bonus content on the Dungeon Masters Guild Pay What You Want version of the Pathfinder project when that gets finished. So, just as a thank you for anyone that gets it off of there, because it'll have the option of giving a little bit towards us to pay for some things. But, let's see. Yeah, the last Unearthed Arcana was I believe it was a Wild Magic type Barbarian and a Astral Soul Monk, which basically used Projected Wisdom. They've been out for a while, and there's a couple other people that have done reviews for them already. If there's enough people wanting me to talk about them, I'll be happy to go back and review those. But, there's just so much I want to cover in GM's Brew and stuff like that. I'm already thinking about doing... yeah, Zizva is right. Astral Monk is just lethal. It will murder everything within 5 feet of it, given the half a chance. But yeah, no, I'm thinking I have a lot of ideas to do for the GM's Brew stuff, so just keep tuning in whenever I do a stream on Thursdays. It will be, hopefully that won't have to ever change, because I'll have to go back and edit this later, but Thursdays is the day I plan on doing my homebrew stuff for the most part. I have a plan to do the next 2 weeks as more Spelljammer stuff, such as I believe we did... I love Darkest Dungeon. It is one of my favorites. I'm very much looking forward to the second coming out. In fact, a lot of the stuff in the Aberrant Mind and the Lurking Deep archetypes that we just reviewed reminded me a lot about them. I'm a big fan of like Lovecraftian and cosmic horror. Oh, I wasn't going to say that. Well, since I said that, consenticles. Ha! I said it. Ha! You can't stop me. Anyway, I completely distracted myself. Sorry. Next week on Thursday, I'm going to be doing a mini one-shot adventure based around using either your NPCs or using either your characters or the NPCs that we created last Thursday for the Brass Knuckle. And the week after that, I will be doing a mini settlement where the Brass Knuckle docks. And then that will be the end of the Pathfinder project. I will collect those into a document, add the Warlock Patron subclass that I'm designing for that, and hopefully it'll go up on the DM's brew for pay what you want, and hopefully it'll become a big success and people will like it. Once I finish that, I'll take a few weeks to do a few mini projects, such as doing a segment on designing weapons and stuff. I have had a player or two express a desire for tower shields in the game, and I have an idea about how I want to do that. And a few other weapons and items that I would like to show how to design, add, and get in. And I'll probably talk a bit more on that in the next couple weeks. I have a lot of ideas on like different subtypes that will probably get added as little bonuses at the end of these project books that will be going up on the DM's Guild when they're finished. So just follow us. I would like to remind everyone that we are currently, I believe, 2 followers away from our 35 follower goal for the week. If we get to 35 followers by the time we go on break on Sunday, we'll be giving away this set. Wow, I have just lost all ability to speak. This set of blue and gold dice. So yeah, turn in Sunday for Second Sight Agency. Follow us on Twitter at Bonus Roll for announcements like this impromptu show, and for information about our upcoming additional shows like the Shadowrun game that we'll be running on Friday nights, and Zizva's cult game that we'll be playing periodically on a I think we're talking either monthly or bi-monthly basis. We haven't nailed that down just yet. But you get to see me actually play a character instead of DM, so get ready for that nightmare. I think that's pretty much everything I wanted to cover. I really am glad I got to cover a couple things with Amy Chibi and the rest of y'all that came in. I'll go ahead and give y'all like maybe another 10 minutes or so, 5 minutes, 7 minutes, if someone wants to throw up another question or two while I'm getting something to drink so I don't die. Yeah, Zizva is super excited about the upcoming Shadowrun game. For those of you who don't know about it, Shadowrun is a cyberpunk dystopia game with a fantasy bend. Basically, what class is my favorite to NPC? I don't like NPCs with classes that much. Generally, players don't fare well against each other unless they're specifically built to counter other players. So NPCs are more balanced and capable of surviving in the long run, which is why I generally will use an NPC stat block as the base for anything that I want to use as a one-shot, or anything that I want to stick around long enough in case the players get a little aggro and start attacking it. No problem. I'm happy to answer any questions, especially from you, Zizva. So, as I was saying, we are talking about a Shadowrun game. For those of you who are not aware of it, Shadowrun is a cyberpunk dystopia game. I can turn off the icon. That may help. Hold on. Nope, that's not it. There we go. So yeah. Okay, that more readable for you, Tux? I'm going to try and get this out all one more time. Let's see if I can do this before someone that says something else. Shadowrun is a cyberpunk corporate Oh, Tux. Shadowrun is a cyberpunk corporate dystopia game with a fantasy element where the forces of magic reawakened early in the 21st century and currently takes place in 2080. It is a world of corporations is a world run by corporations in which elves, dwarves, humans, dragons, and other mythical races are just trying to survive, and is very much in theme with like the early 80s, 90s hacker movies or corporate dystopia shows with a with a fantasy Lord of the Rings edge to it. We are currently talking about having a game start running on Friday evenings. We are currently discussing titles and campaign names, and I am poking around with overlays to overlay. Current working titles, we have a couple different ones. I'll go ahead and grab that because why not spoiler some things? We've narrowed it down to a couple different campaign names. The ones that we are leaning towards are Neon Knights, N-I-G-H-T-S, not K-N-I-G-H-T-S, Neon Rain, and Neon Rain. So if anyone has any ideas, thoughts, or suggestions on that, yeah, it's pretty much D&D set in a futuristic era. There's magic. It functions a bit differently than D&D. It's not as... I honestly feel D&D is way more simpler than Shadowrun. Shadowrun has a lot of crunch. But it's honestly... mine and Ziziva's one of our favorite settings. I was originally intending to do a Shadowrun Anarchy game, which is a lot less the Shadowrun Light system. But with 6th edition having come out, I'm all like, oh, I got to get my hands on that. I'm trying to avoid being overly... I'm trying to avoid baiting lawsuits as much as I can, which is why I'm avoiding things like Aeon. But Neon is such a classic retro futurist thing. I mean, I even have this kind of neonish looking setup for the GM's Review, GM's Brew title card. But yeah, that's another one, something to look forward to coming up. We have Ziziva's cult system that we're going to be experimenting with. I said retro futuristic for a reason, Tux. Remind me to send you the clip from Sam Regal's promo yesterday on Critical Role. But yeah, no. Basically, I just want to run looking to run at least 2 or 3 games on this channel weekly. That includes the D&D stream and the Shadowrun stream. I am thinking about days and times and players for other games. If anyone has a game theme that they would love to see us play, even if it's a one-shot, I'd be happy to know about that. I'm right now thinking about, a hero game, possibly. Because that's something apparently Ziziva hasn't played since she was 5, I believe she said. So, yeah. Maybe hero masks and capes or something like that. Oh, let's hear it, Amy Chippy. I'd love to hear what you'd like. That sounded weird. Prehistoric setting with dinosaurs. I actually know there are a few games like that. I don't have their names in mind, but I've seen a prehistoric setting with a sword and sorcery bent, very Conan, where there are evil magic users and it's all loincloths and stone-tipped spears and stuff like that, and big old jungle cities and dinosaurs. So that's not a bad one. I will look into seeing if I can find like a decent game like that. That would be a fun one, even if it's just a one-shot. I want to say like there's one called Stone Age, I think it is. I'd have to do some research. I'm not comfortable talking about stuff. Oh yeah, I remember. We played Tomb of Annihilation, and I ran a few of the D&D Adventurers League. And one of the rewards for the Adventurers League was a pet velociraptor that it had no combat. Well, I mean, I'm not naming player names. I'm just talking about, like, what it was. But, yeah. They got a pet velociraptor, and over the course of, like, the campaign before we had to end it, they got the raptor a bunch of different little costumes and outfits, and that was actually part of the inspiration behind Cha Maredin's owl and his costume set. It's just someone who loves to dress up their pet, and a pet that not only that does not mind but actually enjoys the attention was the idea behind that, and that led me to some interesting places with Cha, which I hope will someday get explored a bit more in the Second Sight Agency campaign. Yeah. I think I've heard of Dinosaur Island. I did not know Evolution came in Jungle Fantasy mode. That's what that is called, by the way, Jungle Fantasy, where it's, you know, tribalism, pulp fantasy, dinosaurs and stuff like that. I have a homebrew world that I am very fond of that I've been developing for years now that it's had a couple different names. The current name I'm using for it is Kiltris, and I would not mind playing vampire. I have a couple ideas for a vampire character too. But Kiltris, there is a large continent at the southern hemisphere that is predominantly jungle named Monkis, Moonkis, and it's predominantly beast folk, but it has several dinosaurs and a couple outposts set up by other nations as they begin colonization and exploitation of the area. Kiltis is my kind. I can't talk. I ran out of script, and so I'm babbling, and I'm tripping over my own tongue. But yeah, I have a lot of games I want to run, and if we can get to the point that like we have 50 followers, and we can start like pushing Twitch to give us an affiliate, and then start pushing for that partner. And if I could make it my job to literally stream D&D stuff, it would be the best thing in the world. And I would try and do it for at least 4 to 6 hours a day, even if it's just me sitting here answering questions while I read the new adventure books that came out. Speaking of stuff that's coming out, very excited about the Aberrant book that's coming out. Very excited about Descent into Avernus that's coming out. Descent into Avernus has been described to me as Mad Max meets D&D, and from what I have seen, I do not disagree with that assessment. Oh, that is nightmarish, Zizva. I will let you... Tux, I'm going to let you unpack that. I don't want to touch that. So, I'm going to go ahead and call it a night, because it's... I wasn't really planning to do this. It's a little later than I normally started, but I had fun. I hope you all had fun. Please follow us. Please like and subscribe if you're watching this later on YouTube. everyone should be scared of Descent into Avernus, because if nothing else, it makes Exandria, Matt Mercer's homebrew world, officially part of the D&D multiverse through the use of Archon the Cruel showing up in it. So, yeah. Spelljammer! Check us next week for Spelljammer. Check us this Sunday for Second Sight Agency. Watch our Twitter at Bonus Roll for crazy, this is going to be coming out soon stuff. I'm going to go ahead and call it a night, or a day, or at least stop the stream. So you all have a nice day. Thanks for stopping in. I hope you all enjoyed this little review of the Unearthed Arcana. Make sure to check it out on the Wizard site, and when the survey goes live, make sure you leave some feedback. The more feedback they get, the better they can refine these class archetypes. Peace.